All right. I'm a 40-year-old man sitting in his car early for an audition. Time to kill. So I'm recording myself on my iPhone video camera. Fully intending to put this video on the internet. Which means, well, means two things. It means one, I am an individual who continues to create content on the internet in hopes that people will watch it. So one day, maybe I can become relevant. Although a lot of people who are 40 and in my industry and have had any kind of success at this point in their lives and careers are simply learning to accept the fact that while they were once relevant, they're no longer relevant because they're old. But I am an old man, and I continue to try to find relevance. That's one thing that it means. The other thing that it means is it's the web show of Todd. Hey, I'm Todd, and this is my web show, guys. Let me see. All right, I just, last night, with the wife, I finished up the miniseries called Hatfields McCoys on the History Channel. It's a historical miniseries based on the true story of the Hatfields and the McCoys. Let me give you, I'll break it down for you. If you don't have the 6 hours to watch Hatfields and McCoys, because that's how long it is. It's 3 2-hour episodes, this miniseries. If you don't have that kind of time, and honestly, I hope you don't have that kind of time. I hope you're incredibly busy and you're doing a lot to better society, as opposed to me, a lot of time on my hands, had enough time to watch a historical miniseries drama about Hatfields and McCoys. So here's your plot synopsis. It starts during the Civil War, and both Daddy Hatfield and Daddy McCoy, you see, are fighting together for the Confederate Army. They're fighting for the South. They're Southerners, right? And then it starts when Hatfield, I think it was Hatfield, maybe it was McCoy. Either way, it doesn't really matter. One of them leaves because the fighting's not going well. They're losing to the North, so he decides to go back to his family. And then the McCoy, or maybe it was Hatfield, doesn't matter, is pissed about that. So the rivalry starts there. And there's a lot of tension between them. And then they get older and they have their families, huge families, and then there's a misunderstanding, and a bunch of McCoys are shot, or maybe it was a bunch of Hatfields. It doesn't matter. And then what happens is the family, let's say it's the Hatfields whose relatives got shot, they retaliate against the McCoys. So they go after the McCoys, right? And they get a bunch of McCoys. And then what happens is the McCoys get angry about all their people who got hurt by the Hatfields. That was in retaliation to them hurting the Hatfields. And they go after the Hatfields, you see. So they go after the Hatfields. They get a bunch of Hatfields. The Hatfields got really mad about that. So they go after the McCoys. They go back after the McCoys. They attack the McCoys. A bunch of McCoys fall there. And the McCoys get pissed about that. So they go after the McCoys, right? I know this is going to take a while. It's a 6-hour miniseries, you guys. So they go after the Hatfields, right? That's where I left off. So the McCoys go after the Hatfields because they were mad. And then the Hatfields lose a bunch of people. So they retaliate. They go after the McCoys, all right? And they get a bunch of McCoys. Oh, man. And they go after the McCoys. They go after the Hatfields because they're mad. And they get a bunch of Hatfields. And the Hatfields are pissed off. So they go after the McCoys. okay? And they're going after the McCoys. And they get a bunch of McCoys. And then the McCoys are like, hey, you got a bunch of the McCoys, we're going to go and get a bunch of Hatfields. So they go after the Hatfields. So that's about the first part of the miniseries. Part 2 picks up where part 1 left off. And the Hatfields, they go after the McCoys. And then and the McCoys get really mad, but the Hatfields are like, you know, I bet they're mad about us going after them, and they're going to come after us. So let's go after them before they come after us. So the Hatfields go after the McCoys again. But meanwhile, the McCoys are going after the Hatfields. So they're going after each other, and they get each other's people who are left behind, and and then they go after each other again. So then the McCoys go after the Hatfields, right? And get a bunch of Hatfields, and the Hatfields then retaliate, go after the McCoys. And they get a bunch of McCoys, and then the McCoys get mad, and they go after the Hatfields. And then somewhere in there, like a Hatfield falls in love with a McCoy, and then impregnates a McCoy, and then he gets confused, and he marries a different McCoy. So that's all messed up. That's going on at the same time. And that makes everyone even angrier, so the Hatfields go after the McCoys. And they get a bunch of McCoys. And then the McCoys go after the Hatfields. And Tom Berenger's playing one of the Hatfields, and he's all crazy. And often, leads the charge. And then I think the McCoys went after the Hatfields at that point. Then the Hatfields go after the McCoys, okay? And then they go after each other again, and they have a big fight, and then that's the end of part 2. And then part 3 picks up where the other one left off, and the Hatfields, I think, go after the McCoys there, because they don't like how the battle turned out, and then the McCoys get angry and go after the Hatfields. Then the Hatfields turn around and go after the McCoys. And then now the McCoys have had it, so they're going to go after the Hatfields. And the Hatfields get all mad, and they go after the McCoys. Okay? And then the McCoys go after the Hatfields. And the Hatfields go after the McCoys. And the McCoys go after the Hatfields. Hatfields go after McCoys. They go after each other. Then there's nobody left but the Daddy Hatfield and Daddy McCoy. And Daddy McCoy sets himself on fire, and Daddy Hatfield becomes a Christian. Or maybe it was the other way around. It doesn't matter. But that's the Hatfields and the McCoys. In a nutshell, 6 hours of that. Anyway, that's the web show of Todd.